let folks settle in here. I know we have limited time, so I'm going to.
Can I just say one thing first? So, there is an overflow room. You really don't have to stand unless you really want to stand. You can hear Thomas just fine from the overflow room. I also want to remind everybody that all of our speaker bios are available through the website, and Thomas will now take over for things.
Awesome. Well, it's great to see folks in person, live presentations. It's a beautiful day out, so I appreciate everyone coming in. I only have 15 minutes, so I'll try to go over quickly. And today's topic is how to choose between data lakes, lake houses, data meshes, and a variety of combinations there within. But before I go too much, I have to pay the bills. We are a sponsor here at Data Summit. And here at ChaosSearch, we activate your data lake for big data analytics at really big scale. And we do this by transforming your cloud storage, your data lake, into a new, first of its kind, search SQL database without data movement, without complex pipelines. So, that's a little plug for ChaosSearch, but, why are we really here? Well, first, a little background on me. So I'm the founder, CTO of ChaosSearch. And, the marketing team did this for me. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm not sure where it starts. Is it 5? Is it 4? Is it 3? But, the passion behind telecommunication, I cut my teeth building big distributed systems, God boxes, virtualization, databases, really my passion. I love information. I love data. Several patents in this field of distributed algorithms, data structures, and whatnot. So without further ado, let's get into it. We have limited time here. So data lakes, lake houses, data meshes, what are they and how do you select one from the other? And I like to say there are 3 Ds in selecting an architecture. There's a definition. What is a data lake? What is a lake house? What is a mesh? And there's some subtle differences between these. And the nuance is important. And then the differences, what is the difference between a lake and a lake house? What's the difference between a lake house and a mesh? These are topics that we're going to discuss today. And then lastly, decision point. How do you choose between a lake house, and a data mesh? And again, we'll go into that to make your perfect architecture. I know that's kind of a non-reality, but that's always our goal, is to make the best architecture for your organization that can grow, that can be agile, etc. So really the question is this the right time for you to choose one of these technologies, one of these architectures? There's a responsibility for moving into new tech, new philosophy, and is it right for you? Are you up to the task? And then right or wrong, there's some pros, there's some cons to each one of these architectures. I've seen success, I've seen failure on any one of these solutions. So make sure that you think wisely. And then, is there something else you may want to choose? So there's a lot of choices on here, and there's a lot of combinations. So we'll try to cover a variety of that only within 15 minutes. So let's get into it. But let's first talk about what we're not going to talk about. There's a lot of technologies out there, and these are things you should know, even though we're not covering them today. Classic data warehouse, right? If you're not familiar with the warehouse, I would not go into data lakes yet, right? But the idea of data warehouse is to collect information to make it available for your organization. It's the workhorse of their IT. Just know that that's going to be part of your story probably. The data hub, right? The idea to collect data, to repurpose, to share. Again, these are aspects that are typically in your IT organization. And lastly, kind of the precursor to the data mesh is the data fabric, where it integrates siloed information in a centralized governance. Now, we'll get into what the data mesh means differently, but these are topics, these are technologies that you really need to know as you build out your lake, your data lake house, or your mesh architecture. So what are the drivers of this? Data is growing. We all know it, right? IDC said by 2025, 175 zettabytes of data will be generated. I mean, I know small organizations, startups generate terabytes a day of data, and it's growing. And, across all departments, the operational, the business side, all this data growth needs to be managed, needs to be analyzed from a variety of sources. Every day there's a new source, a number of them, the schema schemas, the semantics, all this is really problematic and why we're having this discussion today. But here's the thing. Analytics and data is the lifeblood of your business. We all know that, right? So that if you could be a data-driven organization, you outperform your peers. Everyone knows that. However, everyone's struggling to achieve it. And if you do achieve it, you are now agile to drive product direction, corporate performance, to ultimately build better product, make and hire new, we have some of my sales team here, get new clients, right, to your organization. And doing that, get the feedback, analyzing the feedback to keep those customers happy. That's why this data matters, right? So more customers, more feedback, more data. You're seeing where the problem is. If you're successful, right, you're going to have more of it. And then this little computer science joke, go to 10, repeat. This will constantly be an iterative aspect of any data management play. So let's get into it. Definition: lakes, lakehouse, mesh, right? So a lake, I'm sure if you haven't heard of a lake, the cloud is all around lakes today. It's a centralized repository of the data in its natural form, its raw form. And if you know the new Lake 2.0, where not HDFS, but cloud object storage, and Amazon's first service was S3, and it's secure, it's durable, it's reliable. It was the foundation for archiving data, then ETLing data to one of your solutions like a warehouse, to now direct access of analytics on that lake. That's a lake. And then Lakehouse, right? The combination, that's why I brought up warehousing, the combination of having a data lake as a backing store and a warehouse functionality. But here's the key thing. If you're not familiar with data platforms, this is a kind of a subset, a SQL BI subset of your data platform going after those use cases where the data lake is the foundation and the warehousing rules. And again, we'll get into that. And then the data mesh, right? The precursor was Fabric, but the next generation of data mesh or data fabric is data mesh, where you're integrating these silo solutions in a distributed governance, not centralized, right, with the data fabric, distributed as a service. But here's the thing. Experts are making that data available. And so this is kind of the new kid on the block, but there's some really excitement around here. We'll get into that. Okay, so we actually did a survey. So you want to make choices. Well, maybe look at your peers and making choices. We did a survey that just came out last month of whether customers are investing in data lakes, lake houses, meshes, et cetera. And what we found was, data meshes, data fabrics are kind of a new kid on the block. People are just testing the water on that. And it's less than 20%. And I think we got up to 1,000 folks responding. So, it's a new one. Now, warehouses, right? Warehouses are still the workhorse in this market. But what's coming up is this immaturity, but to maturity data fabric. And then Lakehouse is where a lot of maturity has been happening recently. I mean, shoot, there's Lake 1.0, there's Lake 2.0, and now with the combination of Lakehouse, this is a real trend in the market, and we see this in the numbers. And then, again, warehousing, the maturity thereof. But here's where it gets interesting. The spend. Warehouses still dominate the spend in our IT organizations. Why? It's proven. However, it's relatively costly. The new investment is in lakes with a new added Lakehouse type investment. And then the data fabric, it's on the rise. The mesh is on the rise, but the new people are cautious. They're investigating. They're experimenting in this environment. And then lastly, the ones that are in production with mesh are enthusiastic about what it can bring to their organization. And so something to note, there are all these combinations in choosing what you want to do. So decision points, right? Which path to go? Is it the data lake? Is the lake house? Is the mesh? This is my recommendation. This is my bias, I guess. ChaosSearch is a lake-oriented solution, so I'm always going to push the lake philosophy. But my viewpoint is continue to invest in architectures that work. Sure, warehouses are static and costly, but they're proven to work. I would say continue with that, but then start to grow into a data lake if you haven't already, right? Because it can be a source for your warehouse, for your lake house, even your mesh. Right? It's a natural place to store data and be a feeder for multiple solutions. there's a lot of expertise in around warehousing, in around data lakes. But again, that theme of storing data, collecting data is here. And the data gravity of cloud providers, right? Amazon S3 was their first service back in 2006. Now all cloud providers have cloud object storage, have data lakes, and through a click of a button, it just naturally gets to the lake, right? And so there's a real draw into getting to lakes. So here it is. Experiment. Extend your architecture, repeat. You have to do some trials and errors to make sure your architectures work well. This is hard stuff. This is complicated stuff. And so my recommendation is continue to build out your data lake philosophy. It's easy, it's cost effective. Your cloud providers want to do it. And just make that a foundation so that you can extend this lake, this source, into a potential lakehouse, right, as a design. So you're storing the data, connect maybe ETL to your warehouse so that you can test whether the lake or the lakehouse is right for you. I've seen multiple customers test out a lake, maybe put data into the warehouse, maybe bring it back, some combination thereof. And the key thing, and again, hint, the data lake is always your foundation. And then if you're creating these silos of data, right, if you're creating your lake house, your warehouse, or maybe it's some combination, maybe it's time to investigate whether a data mesh is your solution. Now, I'll be very clear. You need a mature IT organization to bring in a mesh. You need experts to do this, and there's a lot of conversations around that. So I would say walk in slowly into this environment. And then lastly, fourth option, maybe a lake-based solution, hint. This is a little, food for thought. There are a variety of technologies, and what we're doing at ChaosSearch is something new. It's lake with functionality. So I'm going to leave it open for a few questions, but I really want to appreciate, I know we're going fast, we only have 15 minutes to cover, but I wanted to cover the lakes, the lake house, the mesh, and if you have any questions, we have a booth here. Come talk to me. Talk to my team about what we're doing in lakes and how we bring data analytics to your organization. Any questions, and then we can finish up. Yes.
You mentioned the volume and variety of data, but not the velocity of data. How does moving data around to these different architectures, one, handle the increasing velocity of data, and two, we have a tenet which is every time you move or copy data, you're increasing your attack surface, you're increasing the risk that the data is not synchronized, and the cost to synchronize it. How do you rationalize all that in this kind of complex environment?
That was not a plan, and I love that question. And this is why I'm coining the, transform your cloud storage into a database because of that ingestion problem, right? All these solutions are more static, more read-oriented. And how do you transform your lake into a real-time analytical platform? And something that we are doing at ChaosSearch is transforming not just as a read-only repository, but a real-time stream into your lake so you get real-time analysis. To be frank, we go after log analytics, real-time alerts, real-time analysis. So, if you're interested in that conversation, love to talk to you at the booth. And then lastly, data movement, copying data, ETLing data, losing insights. All these are problems. So back to our philosophy of a data lake. Store it as raw and always be able to go back to that raw and don't move it. Time, cost, complexity, and then don't transform it so you can't get those insights back. And we see this a lot in the market. No, so love that question. That was not a plan, I promise. Yes?
Do you see the data lake versus data mesh as two different strategies competing with each other, or is there a world where enterprises are racing for?
It's a great question. I think that mesh works with a variety of these solutions. I was trying to hint at that as there are sources. So to me, a data lake is a source, maybe a source to a warehouse, to a lake house, to a data mesh. So to me, the mesh is kind of a unification across all these siloed solutions. So I don't think they're orthogonal, but I think that they can work in concert. I don't think one shoe fits all. I really believe that. And I always love the Lake because it's so easy, cost effective to get the data in. Then you get to choose what you want to do from that. And meshes are something that is trending because it's so hard to be successful at data. And maybe this is a technique, a philosophy to get your organization working efficiently and cost effectively. Any other questions? I think perfect time, 15 minutes. I want to thank everybody, and you have a great day.